Here we go. So, good morning and welcome to this week's Breakfast with Mike. And this week we're talking about the words. We're talking about what do you say when they say, because they say a lot of stuff that stops us from getting what we want to get. And that's really important. We need to be able to be prepared to say whatever we need to say because they're going to say stuff. And sometimes they say silly stuff. Oh yeah, I'm going to list as soon as the flowers come up. Huh? What do the flowers have to do with their need to move? Nothing. But they think that it'll make it look better, and it might, but it's not going to make them any more money. But it's a feeling that they have. So when you look at what happens when a seller says this? What happens when a buyer says, "Why should I work with you? So and so will do it for less." When a seller says, "So and so told me they wouldn't charge me that much, they're only what do you say? I remember Floyd teaching us one of the techniques, and the technique was called the seal technique. I don't know if you've ever heard the seal technique, but it goes like this. The seller or buyer says something, and out of our mouths comes the seal technique, because we don't know what to say. Today is all about what to say and giving you a process that the truth of the matter is this is a process that I learned from Floyd. And over 30 years, I haven't changed it. Now, I may have changed some of the words here and there, but I'll give credit where it's due. This came from Floyd. And it's all about feelings because most objections deal with their feeling. That's just what most objections deal with. It's their feelings about something. And however they feel is something we have to work with. And one of the first things we have to do when they throw something at you, you have to, well, for lack of a better term, you have to disarm them. And in order to disarm them, the easiest way is to agree with them. It disarms them. I don't want to pay you that much. Yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. Heck, if I could get it done for nothing, I'd do it. And all of a sudden, you will see they will relax in their chair because they don't feel like you're battling them. Oh, don't worry, you're gonna, but not yet. First thing we got to do, Floyd likes to call it cushion it. You've got to cushion it. Show them you're not going to argue with them. Say things like, yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. Or I appreciate how you feel about this. Then the second step kicks in. And the second step has been something that I have thrown at students for years. And it's all about questions. Now you got to start asking questions because you got to find out what is making them feel the way they do. Our goal here is to change their feelings. Well, we can't do that until we know what it is. Floyd calls this the probe step. We're going to probe. We're going to ask a bunch of questions. I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to pay that much either, just out of curiosity. What's bothering you about that? Well, just out of curiosity, what makes you feel like you can get it for so much less? Just out of curiosity, when you came up with that price, I mean, you must have had a reason for it. You mind if I ask, what were you feeling when you said, okay, I want this? We're going to start probing, asking questions. And by the way, anytime you ask questions, you should be writing down their answers. If you're sitting there in front of them, you write down the answers. You can even apologize to them and say, I don't, I'm not disrespecting you when I do this, but I want to make sure I've got this written down just the way you said it. What they don't know is you're doing that so you can use it later. But it also shows them that you respect what they're saying. So you start questioning, you start probing, you start asking what's making this, why are they feeling that way? And by the way, it doesn't matter whether they're right or wrong, because right or wrong is a matter of opinion in a lot of these cases. Your opinion might not be the right one. Theirs might not be. But whatever it is, it is. And that's what we have to deal with. They might say, well, I just think in this kind of a market, we can get more. I don't blame you. I would too. But once I've started to get an idea of why they're feeling the way they're feeling, this is probably the most important step. You have to isolate that as if this is it. Overcome this, and you're going to walk out with that listing. See, if you don't isolate it, if you just start handling it, well, then when you're done, they'll give you another one and another one and another one because they're not ready to sign. So you need to isolate it by saying things like, is that the only thing that's stopping you from moving forward? Well, okay, get that out, probe that, whatever it is. One thing you will always find to be true, if they need to move and you isolate the problem, they'll sign if you can show them how to handle it. If they don't need to move, they will keep coming at you with a barrage of other excuses why they're not going to sign. And that's what they are. They're excuses. And the chances are, if that's what happens, you missed something on that initial phone call before you set this up. See, I know a lot of agents, nobody on this call, because you wouldn't do this. But I know a lot of agents, when they hear the seller say, okay, come on over, they just go over. They don't ask any questions because they don't want to risk losing it. What are you risking? You don't have anything yet. There's nothing to lose if you don't have anything. So a lot of agents don't go on listing appointments, they go on visits. Floyd made that one crystal clear to me. And I found out I was going on a lot of visits. I just wasn't asking enough questions. And some of you that are working with me one-on-one, we track things. And the last thing you want to do is get on a phone call with me and say you didn't do what you told me you were going to do. So you make up stuff and you think I don't know. Oh, yeah, I scheduled 2 listing appointments. Uh-huh. Okay. When are you going on them? Well, one of them already canceled. Yeah, that's convenient. You don't want me to say that you were going on visits, so you don't ask enough questions. And if you do, you won't go on as many, but you'll get the ones you go on. Anyway, back up. We isolate it. Is that the only thing stopping you? Well, yeah, pretty much. That's it. I mean, okay, so if I could handle that, if I could prove to you, and here's the words you use, if I could prove to you, and I mean prove beyond any doubt, that you paying me more than you think you should, if I could prove to you that that'll actually put more money in your pocket, I know that's a lot to prove, but if I could prove that, are you ready to get the ball rolling? And if they say yes to that, I know now what I've got to do to walk out with that listing. Most of the time, they won't do that. They'll say, well, how are you going to prove it? Well, that's up to me. But if I do prove it, this is what I'm trying to do. Isolate this. This is all I got to do to walk out with this. Once I get a yes to that, we have reached the part where you're paid the big bucks for. And I've said for many years now, I wish that they would change the title on the real estate license so that they didn't call it a real estate salesperson. They called it a real estate problem solver, because that's what you really are. And until you can solve problems, you'll never make a lot of money. I say this to my one-on-one students all the time. They call up complaining about problems. I'm saying you should be glad you got them, because if you didn't have any problems, they don't need you. This is where we make our money, right here. This is where we're going to change their feelings. And the top producers in our business use something that most of you don't. They use stories. And I've shared this the last few weeks. I've shared it a couple times about when you have a problem and you're able to solve it, it's a story you want to remember so that the next time something like that comes up, you can share the story. People don't always believe us. They believe what other people had, what happened to them. They believe that. They should believe us. Some of them will, but a lot of times they won't. And this is the time we tell them a story. You know, I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to pay extra either. I was working with this couple, I don't know, maybe 6 months, a year ago. They felt the same way you did. And truth is, they ended up not hiring me because I wouldn't lower my standard. And they hired somebody else. And they never moved. It never got sold. I'm not doing this to put more money in my pocket. Although my wife will be happy, you know, she'll get to go shopping. But that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because you told me you need to move, and I'm the answer. I will solve that problem. You can do like what they did a couple of years ago and you know, still be in their house. That's fine if you're happy here. Or you can let me handle it. And the one thing that's interesting about you letting me handle it is it's no pressure. If you know, if I start working on this and you're not happy with the results, I'll let you out. I don't ever believe working with somebody who doesn't want to work with me. So if that's what happens, I'll let you out. Oh yeah, you guys all have those closet. Yeah, I do it though. I'll let you out. If you're not happy, if I don't do what I said I was going to do, I'll let you out. Now, by the way, I tell every single seller that same thing. Go ahead and ask me if you want. Most people do. In my whole career, I have one person that I had to let out. And boy, everything went wrong. Oh my God. They put the sign up in the wrong house. The photographer showed up and took pictures of the wrong house. I mean, nothing went right. Guy finally called me up and he says, you know, you told me you'd let me out. I said, yeah, why? What's happening? And he told me, and I went, oh my God, I am so sorry. I said, you're right. I promised you, and I didn't deliver. I'll let you out. And I did. And you know, for 6 months, even though he was on with another guy, for the next 6 months, he referred business to me, not his guy. He referred business to me. Why? Because I did what I said I was going to do. Wouldn't that be nice if we all did that? Anyway, that's off the point. If I can prove to you, would you? Yeah, tell them a story. And once you tell them a story, then there's only one thing left to do, and that's close. Doesn't that make sense? Sometimes it's easy as that. Doesn't that make sense? Now, we'll throw one other thing into this. Because in all the years I've been selling real estate, since even when I work with students one-on-one, doesn't matter. None of this matters. In all these years, I have never, ever found this track didn't work. But there is a hitch, and it's not in the track. And that is, if you're talking to the wrong person, it won't work. I mean, here's what I mean by that. In almost every situation, you're going to have somebody who's more analytical and you're going to have somebody who's more emotional. And if you haven't figured out who the decision maker is and you talk to the other person, the track won't work. You have to make sure you're talking to the right person. And if you're talking to the right person, you have to talk in their language. When you're talking to emotional people, you need to use emotional words. When you're talking to analytical people, you need to talk analytical words. I have said for many years when I'm talking to my core people, I had, when things were rocking for me, I had 50 people that were in my solid core. And I would say to you now that what I knew, I didn't call it this back then. I didn't know it that back then, but it was, I had 50 different languages. Each one of those people talked a different language. Maybe their language was sports. Maybe their language was food. Maybe their language was movies. Maybe their language was opera. That's a story you guys have heard me tell before. But they all spoke a different language, and you need to be able to speak their language. So when you sit down with people, if one of them is kind of looking like this all the time, they're not even paying attention to you, you've got a problem, especially if that's the decision maker. So this track will work as long as you're talking to the right person. And that requires you to keep asking questions. So I hope you've picked up a tip or two, because buyers and sellers both say stuff. There's a lot of trainers out there that talk about memorizing scripts. Scripts are great if the client knows their lines. But when they don't, that's why we rely on tracks. Because all a track does is give you an idea of where I'm supposed to be. And in this situation, we know what the track is, right? First thing we're going to do, cushion it. Make them feel right. Make them feel like we're not pushing them. Then we're going to probe, ask a bunch of questions, find out what the real reason is that they're not going along with this. Is it a feeling I have to change? Is it something solid that I have to? There are times when somebody's going to get a house in probate, they can't do anything until the probate gets settled. Well, their feelings don't matter there. So we got to find out what it is. Once we do, then we isolate it. Is that what's stopping you? Okay. Then handle it. If I could prove to you. Once they get a yes there, tell them a story. I'll tell you, every top producer I've ever met has got a boatload of stories. Everything they've ever been through in their career, they have stories for. And they use them all the time. Have you noticed that I use a lot of stories? Have any of you even noticed that? Oh, yeah, you have. I know you have. I hope you picked up a tip or two. Wish more of you had been here. If you're listening in, maybe you'll stop in next time. Otherwise, have a great week, and we'll talk to you all later. I'm going to turn the recording off and let these guys throw some stuff at me.